My journey into the perplexing world of alien abduction was not one I sought, but one that found me. As a professor and the head of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, my world was grounded in the tangible, the observable, and, well, the scientifically verifiable. I spent decades exploring the inner workings of the human mind, from dreams to the complex landscapes of consciousness. My work, including a Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of T.E. Lawrence, was rooted in established psychological principles. Then, in the late 1980s, I was introduced to the work of researcher Bud Hopkins, and my securely constructed reality began to fracture in the most unexpected and profound way imaginable. Initially, I approached the subject with the deep-seated skepticism you would expect from someone in my position. The very notion of individuals being taken by non-human beings aboard spacecraft and subjected to strange procedures sounded like the stuff of science fiction, not clinical reality. Yet, as I began to meet these individuals, my professional detachment was challenged by their profound and authentic suffering. The consistency of their stories, told by people from different walks of life who had never met, was startling. They recounted these events not as dreams or fantasies, but as powerful, life-altering experiences that had happened to them in physical reality. The history of this phenomenon is more recent and detailed than many realize. While tales of encounters with little people or sky beings exist in folklore, the modern abduction narrative gained prominence in the latter half of the 20th century. Books by researchers like Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs laid the groundwork, documenting hundreds of cases that shared uncanny similarities. My own interest was solidified after I began working directly with experiencers in 1990. My prior explorations into non-ordinary states of consciousness, such as through holotropic breathwork, had prepared me to consider realities beyond our everyday perceptions, opening my mind to possibilities I might have otherwise dismissed entirely. I soon realized that I could not simply explain away these powerful accounts with conventional psychiatric diagnoses. The people I was meeting did not fit the profiles for psychosis or delusion. They were grappling with a trauma that was intensely real to them, a trauma that resisted easy explanation. My role shifted from that of a skeptical observer to a dedicated investigator, committed to understanding the depths of this mystery. It was a path that would put me at odds with many of my colleagues and challenge the very foundations of the Western worldview, a journey into a phenomenon that demanded to be heard. One of the most compelling aspects of this phenomenon is the very ordinariness of the people who report these experiences. They are not individuals seeking fame or attention. In fact, most live in fear of ridicule and go to great lengths to keep their stories private. I have worked with housewives, prison guards, secretaries, students, and small business owners. They are our friends, our neighbors, and our colleagues. They come from every social and economic background, and extensive psychological testing reveals that, as a group, they show no more signs of mental illness than the general population. Their sanity is not the question. These individuals, whom I prefer to call experiencers rather than abductees, often report that their encounters began in early childhood. Some recall strange visitations in their bedrooms or unsettling memories of being taken from their homes or cars by small gray beings with large dark eyes. These early events are often confusing and fragmented, shrouded in a kind of induced amnesia that makes them difficult to access. It is only later in life, sometimes triggered by a particularly vivid encounter or a strange physical mark, that the memories begin to surface, bringing with them a torrent of fear, confusion, and a deep sense of isolation. The core narrative of the abduction experience is remarkably consistent across cultures and continents. It typically involves being rendered immobile by a strange light, floated through solid objects like walls or windows, and taken into a sterile, technologically advanced environment, presumably a craft. Once inside, the experiencers describe being placed on a table where they are subjected to a variety of physical and reproductive procedures. These examinations are often perceived as cold and clinical, yet they are sometimes accompanied by telepathic communications from the beings who convey complex ideas and emotions without speaking a word. This consistency is perhaps the greatest challenge to those who would dismiss these accounts as mere fantasy or psychopathology. If these were simply products of individual imaginations, one would expect a vast and colorful variety of stories, reflecting the unique cultural and personal backgrounds of each person. Instead, we find a structured, recurring narrative, detailed with specific procedures and technological descriptions, reported by thousands of unrelated people worldwide. It is this powerful cross-cultural pattern that suggests we are dealing with a genuine objective phenomenon, however strange and unsettling it may be to our conventional understanding of the world. Accessing the memories of these traumatic events is a delicate and essential part of the healing process. Many experiencers find their recollections are walled off, hidden behind a screen of amnesia that feels both internal and externally imposed. To help them navigate this difficult terrain, I have found that a combination of focused breathing techniques and hypnosis can be remarkably effective. These methods are not about creating or implanting memories, as some critics have suggested. Rather, they are tools for relaxation and focused concentration, allowing the individual to access deeply buried information that already exists within their consciousness. The use of hypnosis, in particular, has been a source of controversy, especially during the memory wars of the 1990s. However, when used responsibly, it is a powerful therapeutic tool. It helps to bypass the conscious mind's fear and skepticism, allowing the raw emotional content of the experience to emerge. During these sessions, experiencers often relive their encounters with an intensity that is undeniably real. They sweat, cry out, and exhibit physiological responses consistent with profound trauma. This is not the calm recitation of a fabricated story. It is the visceral re-experiencing of a terrifying event that has been held in the body and psyche for years. Beyond the emotional testimony, there is also a category of physical evidence that accompanies these accounts. Experiencers frequently report waking up with mysterious cuts, scoop marks, punctures, or triangular lesions on their bodies that they cannot explain. These marks often heal with unusual speed, sometimes leaving small scars or ulcers behind. In some cases, these physical marks appear on multiple family members simultaneously. Furthermore, there have been instances where an abduction account is independently corroborated by a UFO sighting in the same area at the same time, reported by unrelated witnesses who had no knowledge of the experiencer's ordeal. The impact of these events on a person's life is immense and transformative. Initially, the experience is overwhelmingly negative, characterized by terror, powerlessness, and a shattering of one's sense of safety and reality. However, as experiencers work through the trauma and begin to integrate the memories, something remarkable often occurs. The terror gives way to a profound shift in consciousness. Many develop a deep sense of connection to all living things, a heightened environmental awareness, and a feeling that they have been given a new sense of purpose or mission, one that is intricately linked to the well-being of our planet. After working with hundreds of experiencers and studying this phenomenon for years, I have come to believe that it holds a meaning that extends far beyond the individuals involved. It seems to represent a powerful challenge to the dominant worldview of Western culture, a worldview built on materialism, scientific certainty, and what I can only call species arrogance. We have constructed a reality that separates mind from matter, spirit from body, and humanity from the rest of the cosmos. The abduction phenomenon violently collapses these boundaries, forcing us to confront the possibility that we are not alone, and perhaps not in control. The messages that experiencers often report receiving telepathically from the beings frequently revolve around a central theme: a grave warning about the ecological crisis facing our planet. They are shown vivid, disturbing images of environmental destruction, nuclear war, and a dying Earth. These are not abstract threats but deeply felt visions of a future we are actively creating through our own destructive behavior. The beings are often portrayed as being deeply concerned, almost like cosmic caretakers or geneticists studying a planet on the brink of self-annihilation. The experience, though traumatic, seems designed to impart a sense of urgency and responsibility. It is possible to interpret this phenomenon as a kind of cosmic intervention, a desperate message delivered in the only language our technologically obsessed, materialistic culture might be able to hear. In a world that dismisses the spiritual and the unseen, perhaps the only way to get our attention is through a physical, tangible event, an encounter with advanced technology and biological beings that defies our known laws of physics. The trauma of the abduction may serve as an indelible stamp, ensuring the message is not forgotten, while the subsequent transformation instills a drive to act upon that message. Ultimately, whether the beings are real in the conventional sense or represent something far more complex, perhaps an interdimensional intelligence or even a projection from a collective human consciousness, the lesson remains the same. The abduction phenomenon is a mirror held up to humanity. It reflects our deepest anxieties about survival and our profound sense of disconnection from nature and the universe. It calls on us to awaken from our destructive slumber, to recognize our place within a vast, interconnected web of life, and to take responsibility for the precious world we are so close to losing. It is perhaps a wake-up call of the highest order,